My next guest is a bantamweight contender from Florida, and on August 12th, he'll be fighting at UFL 3. It's his first fight back in the cage in almost a year. He's one of the top bantamweight prospects in the country, and he joins me today. His name's Brandon Lewis. Brandon, welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to get the opportunity to have you on.
What's going on, Tyler? I'm glad to be here. Glad to be on the show.
Well, I would be remiss to not ask you this question. Usually when I do interviews, I, ask about the last fight and then I ask about the upcoming fight, and we'll hit on those things a little bit, but there's a huge fight happening in your weight class and I have to get your opinion on it. Sean O'Malley is going to be fighting Aljo here next month, and Sean O'Malley, he's a massive underdog going into this fight. And I would love to get your opinion. What does he need to do to get a win?
So anyone that's closely followed me or been around me has known that I've talked crap about Sean O'Malley for the past few years. So it wouldn't be on brand for me to say that I think he would win, which I don't. I don't think he's going to win the fight. He has proven me wrong over and over and over again, though, so I will give him credit for that. He has improved a lot in his career. I mean, it would be honestly, it would be amazing to see him get that upset. I'm not a fan of him, but I can give respect to somebody that has challenged themselves. And his past couple of fights, he's really put himself out there and challenged himself. And I'm not a big fan of the way he acts, not a big fan of what he represents, none of that, but I do give him respect. But even with that said, Aljo, he's a champion for a reason. And not just like, how do you say? He didn't just win the belt, right? He has beaten most of the guys in the top 10 and like pretty dominantly. Obviously that Peter Yan fight, there's a little bit of, mix-ups and all that kind of there, but he's proven himself. So I think Aljo, just with his game plan of just being a backpack and out grappling him. We haven't really seen Sean O'Malley get challenged too much there. I know Peter put him on his back a few times, but Aljo is a longer guy and he's big and strong too at the same time. So I think it's going to give Sean a lot of issues. But, Sean always has a puncher's chance. His timing, his speed, his reactions are on point. And who knows, he might prove me wrong, but I'm still always going to be a Sean O'Malley hater. So
Hey, well, you're in good company. I thought Peter Yan whipped his ass, and I could not believe the decision was what it was. And all the cool kids are saying Sean really won, and I'm just a hater. And I'm like, I don't have a dog in this fight. I watched that fight. I thought Peter Yan whipped his ass. He fought really well. Props to him. He earned my respect. I'm like, oh wow, this guy's a real deal. But I thought Yan won that fight. And I kind of feel that Sean O'Malley has also had, he's had some favorable, not all, but he's had some favorable matchups to help ascend to the position.
Early in his career, for sure. That's why I was originally talking crap about him. But since then, he has challenged himself. So I'll give him that.
Since we're on the UFC topic, Dana White Contender Series, that's getting ready to start back up. I know that's something that you're quite familiar with. You're a two-time Dana White Contender Series veteran. And I know some of my friends, they're going to be making this walk for the first time. They're going to be featured on the Contender Series for the very first time. And what an opportunity to ask somebody like you, it's a fish out of water experience. It's not like a normal fight. Dana White's going to be there. It's on ESPN. Everyone around the world's watching. I'm not going to ask you so much about like lessons learned from your fights in particular, but just you as a person, having experienced what you went through. For somebody who's brand new, who's going to be experiencing that for the very first time, do you have any like words of wisdom that you would share?
I would say, even though the boss man is putting a lot of pressure on you to put on a good performance and to go and put on a great show and impress the boss and all that, don't overload yourself with that kind of pressure, because that can block things for yourself mentally. If you've made it up to that point, if you made it to the Contender Series, there's a reason why. So keep fighting your fight, keep doing the same thing that you've been doing that's been giving you success up to that point, and don't let the additional pressure get to you or change the way that you fight or do things. There's going to be a lot of things that are new. Obviously, the way that the UFC handles things as far as like travel, media, all this kind of stuff. It can be a lot for certain people if you're not used to it. So I would say try to set those things aside mentally. And when it comes fight time, fight your fight, keep doing the same things that you're doing in preparation. Don't try to do anything dramatic to change, because you're going to have a lot of change coming into that fight week regardless. So fight your fight. That's my advice.
I feel like there are like two paths you potentially could have taken, right? So for somebody who it didn't work out for them for the UFC, for Contender or whatever, some fighters take the route like, I'll fight a few jobbers, I'll pad my record, and then that might be enough to get me a short or whatever. And then the other path would have been, I'm going to try to find the hardest fight I possibly can, and that's the way I'm going to like make it back to the show. You have obviously chosen path number two, and I want to kind of like pick your brain about that a little bit. Like, what was it that made you kind of go down that pathway? Because you know what I'm talking about. You know that there are a lot of guys out there that would, fight the not so challenging fights, and you're going in the completely opposite direction. And I would even go as far as to say you got big balls for doing what you're doing, because this Grand Prix that you're a part of for UFL is not a joke.
No, absolutely. I think that goes to say the reason why. I mean, I've been fighting professionally. Like, I started my pro career pretty early. I've been training for a while. And I just have full belief in myself that I think at some point, I can fight the best people in the world. Obviously, I'm not at that level yet. I do need to fight good fights. But fair matchups, fair matchups are matchups that are going to challenge me, that are going to bring out new things. If I fought tomato cans, that wouldn't really do anything for me. With, again, the exception of padding the record and making myself look good in that regard. But my whole career, I've always challenged myself. I feel like that's made me the fighter that I am today. That's made me better. And I'm going to keep challenging myself up until the very end. I mean, I'm not going to go. Obviously, there's certain fights that I took that, hey, the opportunity, like the Contender Series fight, last one that I had. All right, that's just an opportunity. I'm going to jump on that opportunity no matter what the challenge is, whatever. I just want to fight fair matchups, people with similar records, people that are on par with where I'm at in my career. A little bit above, a little bit below, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's within that range of a good, fair matchup, I'm good. And that's just because I have full belief in myself to keep going. I think the mistakes that I've made in my previous fights weren't necessarily an issue that I couldn't overcome. It's not like I would have to go back to the drawing board and train for 5 years to overcome certain things. I really feel like I'm kind of on the cusp of becoming one of the world's greatest fighters, one of the best out there. I just have to fine tune some things, and that comes with finding good, fair matchups. And it's not going to come with easy fights. Easy fights aren't going to do anything for me. I need to keep challenging myself and seeing what else I need to adjust slightly before I fight the best prospects in the world.
What was it specifically, Brandon, about the UFL that made you sign with them? Somebody of your caliber, you could have gone back and you could have fought for, take your pick of any regional MMA promotion you felt like. I mean, you had probably a plethora of options at your feet. You probably could have got mixed up with Game Bread. You could have gotten mixed up with CFFC, LFA. Take your pick. What was it about UFL that made you sign on the dotted line with them?
Honestly, they just have such a good offer in comparison to other regional shows. I mean, I love all those other regional shows. I fought for LFA. I almost fought for CFFC. A lot of my teammates, they fight for CFFC. They're a great promotion. A lot of these other promotions that you named, that they're great. It's just the offer that the UFL had was just almost something I couldn't pass up. The pay is very competitive in comparison, and not only that, where I'm getting health insurance for the year. And if you know any bit about my backstory, I had to wait an entire year. I had a back injury, couldn't train, couldn't do anything, and I was out of fighting for 3.5 years. And I mean, a year of that time was just me waiting to get surgery because I didn't have health insurance at the time. So getting provided health insurance is something that kind of touched me personally. The offer was great. Getting shares in the company, that's all great too. But honestly, one of the things that I haven't spoke about yet that I think brought me to the UFL was I listened to the owner's podcast, the HAR podcast, and I really got to know, like, okay, what's his deal? and getting to know him, getting to know about his previous experience in business, the respect that he has for fighters. It really, at least, it makes me believe by his actions and what he's said so far that he really is doing this for the fighters. And that's what I'm about as well. Even if we're all pit against each other, fighting each other, claw fighting, scratching our way to the top. But at the end of the day, the fighters kind of need to stick together in some way and support each other. And so if you're out there supporting fighters, I'm with you. And that's what the UFL appears to be doing. They're for the fighters, and I'm here to support that.
The UFL, they don't even have a handful of events to their name at this point in time. They're a brand new promotion. You're going to be featured on UFL 3. Is the fact that it is a brand new promotion, is that in a sense even more appealing to you because they could feasibly like help build their brand identity around somebody like you?
Yeah. Actually, I think that's more of initially that was probably my like the scary part about it was like, oh, I don't know how this is gonna go because it's so new. That was probably one of the not drawbacks, but like one of the a hesitation point for me. It was like, oh, they're new. I don't know which direction's gonna go. Are they gonna succeed or are they gonna fail? How is this all gonna go down? So, I mean, yeah, you could look at it in that light. That is a really good way to look at it. If they do succeed and do really well, hey, I'm one of the first champions out of that promotion, and that kind of would skyrocket me as well. But I mainly did it for what the company stands for and what they stand behind. And I've worked in just other industries with other kind of small teams or startup companies or whatever, and sometimes they do well, but a lot of times, most of the times they don't. So I'm here to support it no matter which way it goes. I just appreciate the direction that they're trying to go and make things happen. So I'm here to support it.
As I mentioned before, I'm talking to Brandon Lewis. He's in the UFL Bantamweight Grand Prix, and he'll be fighting later this month. Brandon, when you look at the field, when you see the other 35 contenders, not just you and Wetzell, but like the entire class, everyone else who's in this Grand Prix, do you have some like general thoughts?
Not so much. I try to take it one fight at a time. I know I have it's a great bracket that's put together, and it's kind of motivates me to try to come out on top of that bracket, because if I come out on top of the stacked bracket for the Bantamweight Grand Prix, that just puts me in a good spot. Not only does it put me in a good spot where I'll feel good about myself, like, hey, I overcame and I won this tournament, but I'll be, I would end the year at 8 wins, 8-2 with a championship title. That just puts me in a really good spot to be a free agent or whatever. So, if UFL keeps going the direction they're going, that'd give me a lot of incentive to keep fighting for the UFL, but I would also be in a good spot to fight for some other promotions as well. So
Your very first fight is going to be against Justin Wetzell. He's an elevation guy from Colorado, highly skilled. And I know a few of the guys that Justin has fought, and they've struggled against him. What is it about him that makes other really talented fighters struggle in your mind? What does he do well?
I believe probably I would guess that he's a pressure fighter. He's going to keep coming at you, keep grinding. And when you have that kind of style, people tend to break in the middle of a fight. They'll mentally break. So when you start unplugging or breaking and kind of getting away from that in the fight for a second, that's when people can capitalize and finish you, or they'll just dominate you for the rest of the fight. So that's probably a reason why it's just tough going against somebody that has that kind of constant pressure. It's going to keep working you the entire time. So I think a lot of guys will break given that kind of fighter.
Where do you have the biggest advantage over Justin in your mind?
Well, if you've seen my last fight, I could break bones and you're not going to break me mentally. So I'm going to keep coming back at you. I'm not a fighter that's going to give up in the middle of a round, in the middle of a fight. So I think that's one of the bigger advantages that I have. But I also feel like a big advantage that I have is just my skill set. I believe I'm technically a better fighter all around. And like I was saying before, I think I just need to tweak a little bit here and there with each fight. And this camp, especially this camp, is really brought together a lot of things to where things are opening up more. I'm seeing a lot of things more. I've adjusted the things that I felt like I need to adjust, and I mean, we'll see in August if it'll come to fruition. But I feel really good about this fight. I feel really good about where I'm at as a fighter right now. And if things are going to work out the way that I think they're going to work out in this fight, I'm going to skyrocket from here, and you're going to see a pretty straight path to the top.
You have a lot of supporters. You have a ton of people that like watching you fight. And you've been out of the game for 11, 12 months. This is your first opportunity to get back into the cage. Not all of it has been designed. Not all of that's on you. It's just the way it kind of worked out. But for everyone who's been waiting patiently, it's been about a year since you last fought in Contender. What's a message that you have for all your supporters? What's something that you'd want your people to know about before you get ready to fight here in a couple weeks?
I guess that I've been going back to the drawing board, tweaking what I need to tweak. And if you know me, I represent perseverance. So I've been grinding. I've been working hard on these things. I think I don't even have to say that I haven't been lazy this whole time. That's just not the kind of person I am. I've been making the adjustments that I need to make. And don't get me wrong, it's been a tough path to set things up for myself to kind of make things the way that it needs to be, like my situation. But this is the hardest I've ever trained leading up for a fight. This is the most I've trained leading up for a fight. And just everything, like the energy in the gym, my teammates, like everything just kind of, it feels right. So this time around, I think you're going to be able to see me showcase what I have in store, what I've been meaning to show you guys for all this time. And it's going to be a good fight. You'll see.
Brandon, I want to give you the opportunity. If there's any sponsors or there's anyone out there that you'd like to thank before I let you go, let's knock it out.
Every time I have to shout out my team, DEFWAR. Again, we're just a small team, hardworking group of guys that we just have the same goal, same vision. And I know I've said this in interviews before, but they really, they believe in me. We all believe in each other. They've set aside things that they've had to set aside. Again, they have jobs, they have families, they have things that they have to take care of, but they've moved stuff and shifted their busy lives and made sure that they show up for the extra. Because I've been training a lot more frequently this time around. And so, it's hard to kind of keep up with my training schedule for a lot of people, but they've been putting in the 2 or 3 days with me. My coaches, same thing. I've been harassing them. Hey, let's get some extra sessions in. And, they're fully with it. So without them, without my teammates, without my coaches, without the energy that they give me every single day and every single training session, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. And you wouldn't see the fight that you would see August 12th coming.
Well, sir, I appreciate your time this afternoon. I wish you the best of skill on August 12th, and I hope we can do this again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the interview. Appreciate your time. Get ready.